First of all, the Rolex Submariner has a date window with a magnifying glass at the 3 o'clock. But of course, when it's there, you do lose the lume of the number 3 baton. Blancpain have gone for a slightly different attempt with this watch, and they've put their date at the 4:30 position without the Cyclops. Now, we'll say that generally speaking, I can read the date on the Blancpain 50 Fathoms relatively easily, but of course the date window is more legible on the Rolex. But I do like how they have kept the 12, 3, 6 and 9 on the Blancpain.
The Rolex Submariner has gone for dots, batons and an inverted triangle at the 12.
The Rolex has gone for a dot at the 12 o'clock position on the rotatable bezel, so you can see how much time you have left in the dark. And the Blancpain 50 Fathoms has gone for a diamond at the 12 o'clock position, but whereas on the Rolex only the dot is illuminated at night, the Blancpain 50 Fathoms everything is lumed at night, so you can see all of the outside details loomed up. They both feature sapphire crystal glass, but when you lay them flat like that, you will notice that the sapphire crystal on the Blancpain is domed. I would imagine that that is quite difficult to produce. I don't know, it might be very easy, but it looks like it's technically challenging. And you look at the Rolex, the sapphire crystal glass is completely flat. And when you hold the Rolex level, the only thing that you can see is the Cyclops and the pip at the 12 o'clock. There is, of course, a big size difference between these two. The Rolex Submariner, this particular model, is a 40mm, and the Blancpain 50 Fathoms is 45mm. So there is a big difference in size.
The Rolex sports a long, narrow minute hand and a hour hand with the Mercedes symbol, and a very, very clear second hand. And this is very, very legible to read. Much more legible to read is the Blancpain 50 Fathom with its inverted triangular hour and minute hand, and that is a very, very clear watch to read. You might find when the hour and the minute hand of the Rolex goes behind the Cyclops, it just obscures the hands a little bit.
The second hand on the Blancpain has a lume on the very end of it.
The lume on the second hand of the Rolex is of course visible in its entirety all the way around the watch face, being about 3/4 of the way along the second hand.
So we're about 5 seconds fast on the Blancpain 50 Fathoms. The Rolex is around about 10 seconds slow. Now, bearing in mind, I actually corrected the Rolex more recently than the Blancpain 50 Fathoms. The Blancpain 50 Fathoms in this instance is slightly more accurate than the Rolex, and it's not COSC certified. The crown on this has crown guards. On the Rolex you can see crown guards there. The Blancpain 50 Fathoms also has crown guards, but they're not as big on the 50 Fathoms. They're similar size. Maybe they're marginally chunkier. You know, here they tend to go straight into the crown, whereas here they tend to go up and then across to the crown. The crown on this, you have to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have to undo it about 5 times. On here it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, that's the same. So it's about 5 turns on each one for the crown to pop out. Winding it up is just a joy with the 50 Fathoms because it comes very clear of that, and it's quite big and bold. It's very easy to wind up. This also comes clear of the batons and is also easy to wind up. It's a little bit smaller, more dainty. When you pull it out to the first point, that's where you can change the date. So then we've got to go all the way back round to 19. And that's a good, easy movement. It's quick and efficient. There's a definite point of where it comes out. You almost have to turn this a little bit more to change the date. The date change on the Rolex is maybe a little bit marginally easier. You've got to twist your fingers, a little bit more, but it's easy enough. And then obviously when you pull it out one more time, that's where you can hack it to change the time exactly. And then when you've finished, it easily goes back in again. And of course the Rolex, when you pull it out, that hacks the time. Got to give it a little bit more of a push to pull it out. And then of course when you do that, you can change the time very easily with that. You have the traditional Rolex stainless steel, dive strap on here, but I went with the strap rather than the bracelet because I just wanted to save some money, because this is a ridiculously expensive watch. I'm up to about here, so I've got a 6 3/4 inch wrist. You've only got this little bit here that goes into the strap here, into these holders here, which is perfect for me. I could even maybe make it a little bit tighter. So actually that's probably slightly better there. So just see a little bit of the strap showing through there, but not too much. I've never known them, to slip off or anything like that. The back, obviously Rolex has nothing on the back, is not a see-through back, is just a plain back on the Rolex. And the 50 Fathoms obviously has some writing and information on there for you to be able to read when you're sitting on the toilet. I guess you need to read something. Take your watch off and read the back of your watch. These are two, very, very beautiful watches. And personally, if you can't get the Rolex because it's unavailable, which is pretty much what it is, then I don't think you would be disappointed with the Blancpain 50 Fathoms. It is bigger. It's 45 versus 40, but it doesn't wear as a 45 on your wrist. If you notice, the strap kind of comes straight down, whereas the bracelet kind of overflows a little bit. So, you could argue that makes the Rolex just, a good size as well on your wrist. 50.5. The 50 Fathoms does not wear big on the wrist. When we do the Blancpain 50 Fathoms, level 48. So it's like the Blancpain, it's like wearing the Blancpain 50 Fathoms is 2 millimeters smaller on your wrist than wearing the Rolex Submariner. So the 50 Fathoms, even though it's a 45mm watch, it wears more like a 40 something. If we do lug to lug 50.4, it's because on this the strap actually comes inside the lug. If you had the 50 Fathoms on a bracelet, then I think it will wear bigger. And then the Rolex lug to lug is 47. The 50 Fathoms
is 3mm bigger.
If you can't get hold of a Rolex and you want something with significant historical value that is precision made and is actually cheaper to buy than a Rolex on the grey market, considerably cheaper to buy than a grey market Rolex, the Blancpain 50 Fathoms is very, very good value for money. You know, it's a real beauty of a watch. What I will just say is a lot of people do videos comparing the Blancpain 50 Fathoms to the Rolex Deep Sea, and I don't really understand that, because both of these are 300-meter water resistant. So with these two you are comparing like to like. So I never really understand why people compare those two.
Leave your comments below as to why.
So here you have the Blancpain 50 Fathoms, 300-meter water resistant, and the Rolex Submariner, 300-meter water resistance. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.